The sound hit first, one violent, bone-shaking crack that split the quiet morning wide open. My coffee almost slipped from my hand. Nothing normal makes a noise like that. I eased toward the window, slow and steady, with that weird feeling you get right before trouble shows its face. And sure enough, there she was. Karen Edwards, or as half the neighborhood secretly calls her, K.E. Power Queen. The HOA boss who walks on the sidewalks pays rent to her. She stood frozen beside her white SUV, staring at the wreck like physics had betrayed her personally. The entire front end was caved in, metal bent, bumper crumpled, steam leaking from the hood like the car was giving up on life. The passenger door hung wide open, and one lonely piece of her grille lay upside down in my lawn, almost hiding in embarrassment. Then she spotted me, her eyes locked on mine, sharp enough to cut through drywall. She jabbed her finger toward the solid object wedged under her bumper, completely untouched by the chaos around it. "You!" she shouted, voice cracking. "You did this on purpose." I stepped onto the porch, calm as a Sunday morning. "Morning, Karen." She marched toward me, heels sinking into the grass with every angry step. "You're paying for this, Sam Bell, every cent." Yep, that's me. The guy she ignored. The guy she pushed too far. And hey, if you love stories where bullies finally meet their match, hit subscribe, because trust me, it gets wild from here. And the crazy part? That crash wasn't even the real spark. It was just the first flare. The funny thing about that crash, it wasn't a surprise, not to me. Because before her SUV tried to commit automotive suicide on my lawn, Karen Edwards, K.E. Power Queen herself, had been cutting across that exact corner every single morning like it was a shortcut she inherited from her ancestors. The first time it happened, I thought she misjudged the turn. Everybody has off days, right? Wrong. The next day, the same thing. Tires slicing through my grass like she was trimming it with a BMW. The third day, she didn't even slow down. Just rolled through with sunglasses on, one hand on the wheel, like she was the CEO of Asphalt Inc. I stepped out once, waved politely, and tried to get her attention. She didn't wave back, didn't roll down the window, didn't even blink. She just gave me this look, the type of look you give someone who's standing in your parking spot, even though it's, you know, their yard. My wife Laura tried to calm me down. She always does. "Maybe she didn't see the corner," she whispered, brushing my arm. But every new tire track told the truth louder than Karen's HOA newsletters ever did. It wasn't a mistake. It was an entitlement with a steering wheel. And every time those tires chewed up the grass that Laura and I had worked so hard to keep alive, something inside me tightened. Not anger, not yet. Just a quiet promise, this won't go on forever. But I didn't know she was about to take things from annoying to straight-up hostile. The shift didn't happen slowly. It happened overnight. One morning I stepped outside to grab the mail, and there it was. A bright yellow HOA violation notice slapped onto my front door like a parking ticket from someone having a terrible day. Improper lawn maintenance. That's what it said. I actually laughed, out loud, because the only person maintaining my lawn improperly was Karen Edwards, K.E. Power Queen, with her daily drive-through. I walked over to her house to clear the air, expecting maybe a civil conversation, a misunderstanding, something normal. Nope. She opened the door wearing that trademark HOA smirk, the kind that says I run this neighborhood, you're just visiting. "Karen," I said, holding up the notice, "you know this doesn't make any sense." She crossed her arms like she'd been waiting all morning for me to say that. "It makes perfect sense," she replied. "Your lawn is becoming an eyesore. We have standards in this community, Sam. Standards, from the woman whose car had been using my grass as a racetrack. Before I could respond, I noticed someone step into view behind her. Greg, her husband, tall, broad, silent. The type who doesn't speak, just stares hard enough to make the air feel heavier. He didn't say a word, just folded his arms and smiled. A cold, quiet smile. That's when I realized this wasn't about my lawn anymore. And things only got stranger when a random insurance guy spotted something nobody else had ever noticed. The crash had already brought out the insurance adjuster. Some middle-aged guy named Tom Reynolds, sleeves rolled up, clipboard in hand, moving with the confidence of someone who's seen every type of mess humans can create. He walked the perimeter of my lawn, taking photos, muttering notes, measuring distances like he was auditioning for a detective show. I stood back, arms folded, watching him circle the corner Karen kept destroying. Then he stopped, stared, bent down, tapped the ground with his boot. "You know your property line isn't where you think it is, right?" he said casually. I blinked. "Come again." He pointed at a half-buried metal stake near the hedge, something I'd seen before but never paid attention to. "This," he said, "is the original boundary marker. You're a couple of feet off. Actually, more than a couple." I felt something cold slide down my spine. Tom glanced over toward Karen's house, then back at me. "If that's the case, she's been cutting across your property every day. Not a shared boundary, not a common space. Yours." I didn't say anything for a moment. Just stared at that worn, rusty stake quietly challenging everything I thought I knew. Later that afternoon, I called an old coworker, Peter Hall, a licensed surveyor and the most precise guy I've ever known. "Bring your gear," I told him. "I think someone's been lying to me." And when Peter laid down the updated survey that evening, everything changed. Because once I saw that real boundary line, I knew exactly what I had to build. And Karen had no idea what was coming. Once Peter confirmed the boundary line, clear as day, legal as sunrise, I felt something click into place. Not anger, not revenge, just clarity. If Karen, K.E. Power Queen, Edwards wanted to play rulebook roulette, fine. I'd play by the book too, word for word. So I started documenting everything. Every tire track. Every morning she sliced across that corner. Every fake HOA warning taped to my door like she was collecting trophies. Date, time, angle, photos, video, clean, organized, airtight. Because in my world, facts don't flinch, numbers don't lie, and paper trails never forget. I visited Tony, the guy who owned the local hardware shop. Old friend. Sharp memory, sharp tongue. When I told him who was tearing up my lawn, he just gave me a look and shook his head. "Karen Edwards," he said. "Buddy, she's run half the neighborhood in circles. You're not the first. Won't be the last." He leaned in a little. "Just be smart, Sam. People like her, they're loud until they lose, then they get louder." I grabbed what I needed, stakes, lighting, motion sensors, not to trap her, not yet, but to build a record. A timeline, a truth she couldn't wiggle out of. And the more evidence I gathered, the more one thing became crystal clear. Karen wasn't accidentally crossing my lawn. She was daring me to stop her. But before I could make my move, she launched an attack that made tire tracks look like child's play. It happened on a Thursday night, one of those still, quiet evenings where you can hear a leaf hit the driveway. Laura was asleep, the house was calm, and I was in the living room organizing the evidence folder I'd started calling my HOA survival kit. Then, a faint clink. Another metal tapping metal. I froze. That corner of my lawn doesn't make noise, ever. I stepped to the window and gently pressed 2 fingers against the blinds, and my stomach dropped. Out there in the dark, crouched under the streetlight like some kind of midnight raccoon, was Karen Edwards, K.E. Power Queen herself. She was yanking wires out of the ground, my landscape lights, the ones I had just installed to document her morning drive-thrus. She tugged one hard enough that the whole fixture snapped sideways. Then she kicked it. Not a soft, oops kick, a full-on, I'm teaching you a lesson kick. I didn't move. Didn't breathe, I just hit record. For a full minute she stomped, tore, pulled, and muttered something about stupid people who don't understand the rules. Perfect audio, perfect video. A golden gift from the chaos gods. The next morning I forwarded the clip to my attorney, Rachel Kim, who watched it twice before speaking. "Sam, this isn't about a lawn anymore," she said. "Something bigger is going on inside that HOA." Her tone was serious enough to raise every hair on my arm. And she was right. Because Karen's next move didn't just cross the line, it bulldozed it. I thought the midnight sabotage was the peak. I really did. But the next morning proved I was still underestimating Karen, K.E. Power Queen Edwards by a country mile. I stepped onto the porch and nearly tripped over a stack of envelopes, thick, official, stamped with the HOA logo like a threat wrapped in stationery. 6 violation notices. 6. All dated the same day, the same time, the same signature. Unauthorized lighting fixtures, improper lawn edging, obstruction of community visibility, and my favorite, hostile neighbor behavior. Hostile. The only thing hostile was her 4,000-pound SUV using my grass as a speed strip. I was still flipping through the papers when a shadow stretched across my driveway. I looked up. Greg, her husband. Built like a linebacker, dressed like an accountant, eyes like someone who negotiates with silence more than words. He didn't greet me, didn't smile, just stepped closer than any normal neighbor should and said, "You're making things difficult." I didn't flinch. "Not my goal," I replied, "but I'm not rolling over either." For a full 5 seconds, he just stared at me. Then he smirked, a slow, unsettling smirk, and walked away without another word. Inside the house, Laura touched my arm. "Sam," she whispered, "this is getting dangerous." She wasn't wrong. That was the moment the switch flipped. The moment I knew the conversation was done. The moment I decided to build something Karen couldn't ignore or destroy. And that's exactly when I picked up the shovel and started digging. The shovel hit the dirt with a clean, heavy thunk. Not angry, not rushed, just deliberate, like every scoop was carving a line between before and after. The morning was cool, quiet, and peaceful in a way that made the whole thing feel almost ceremonial. I measured the spot twice, then a third time, the exact corner within my legal boundary. The same strip Karen had been trampling like it was part of her morning cardio routine. I wasn't building revenge. I was building a solution she couldn't run over, kick down, or write a bogus violation about. Lumber, concrete forms, rebar cut to size. Everything is laid out with the kind of precision that makes inspectors smile and troublemakers flinch. Neighbors slowed their morning walks to stare. Some nodded, some whispered, and one older guy muttered, "'Bout time somebody stood up to KE Power Queen." I didn't respond, just kept working, quiet, steady, methodical. By noon, the form was in place. By evening, the rebar was set. And as the sun dipped low, the concrete began to settle into something solid, something permanent, something Karen absolutely wouldn't be expecting when she came flying around that corner the next morning. Before heading inside, I made one last adjustment, angled my camera perfectly toward the spot, just in case, because Karen had a pattern, and patterns never break themselves. And at exactly 7:47 a.m. the next morning, she hit it. At 7:47 a.m., the world paused. I heard the engine first, Karen's familiar aggressive acceleration, the kind she used when she wanted everyone to know she was on HOA business. My camera was already rolling, angled like a silent witness. Then she appeared, white SUV, sunglasses on, one hand flicking through her playlist like she was about to headline a suburban music festival, and she didn't slow down, not for the corner, not for the curb, not for the fact that she'd just watched her car die on my lawn less than 24 hours ago. She just turned the wheel and committed. The hit was instant, an explosive, gut-punching boom followed by the metallic shriek of something that absolutely did not want to be moved. Her SUV jerked upward, slammed down, then bounced like it had hit a miniature earthquake. Steam shot from the hood, the windshield spiderwebbed, the entire front end folded like a bad poker hand. And then came the scream. Karen stumbled out of the driver's seat, clutching the doorframe like the earth was tilting beneath her. She stared at the object embedded under her bumper, a small but immovable structure, perfectly within my survey line, standing solid like it had been waiting for this exact moment. "You," she choked out, spinning toward my porch. "Sam, you set me up. This is a trap." I stepped outside calmly, hands in my pockets. "Karen, I didn't touch your car." Police sirens echoed in the distance, her face drained of color. But what she didn't know yet was that smashing her SUV was only the start of her problems. Mine were just beginning. If you ever want to see someone unravel in real time, just watch Karen. KE Power Queen Edwards when she realizes the police aren't automatically on her side. Officer Miller walked the perimeter, checked the boundary stakes, inspected the concrete post, reviewed my footage, and his face didn't twitch once. Professional, calm, unshakable. Karen, on the other hand, was vibrating like an over-caffeinated hummingbird. "He trapped me," she kept shouting. "This is illegal. He endangered a homeowner." Officer Miller finally turned to her. "Ma'am, this structure is entirely on his property, and your vehicle crossed into it." Karen blinked fast, too fast, like her brain was buffering. "This is harassment." "No, ma'am," he said. "This is trespassing." Greg stormed over from their driveway, jaw tight, fists clenched like he was preparing for a boardroom brawl. "This is ridiculous," he growled. "We'll handle this through the HOA." I raised an eyebrow. "Is that before or after you explain the fake violations you sent me?" That one landed. Hard. Later that evening, I sat with my attorney, Rachel Kim, reviewing everything. When she scrolled through the digital copies of the violations, she leaned forward, frowning. "Sam, these are off. The formatting, the signatures, the timestamps, they don't match proper HOA filings." She clicked her pen. "This isn't sloppiness. Someone altered these." Altered, as in forged, as in illegal. A slow, icy realization spread through me. Karen wasn't just abusing power, she was hiding something much bigger. And none of us expected her next move. The one that blew the whole HOA wide open. If Karen had stopped at yelling, or even at the forged violations, maybe things would have cooled down. But no. K.E. Power Queen had a reputation to protect, at least in her own head, so she went bigger, way bigger. 2 days after the crash, I woke to the sound of heavy equipment, a diesel engine rumbling like some monster waking up. I rushed outside and froze. An unmarked work crew, 3 guys in reflective vests, was digging up my corner. Not the public sidewalk, not the curb, my land. One of them had already cut into the soil around my concrete post. "What are you doing?" I shouted. The foreman barely glanced at me. "Utility emergency. HOA authorization. HOA authorization." Those words hit like a punch. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911 so fast my fingers blurred. Within minutes, 2 squad cars rolled in. Officer Miller stepped out, saw the torn ground, the concrete exposed, the cringing to look innocent, and his expression hardened instantly. "Who ordered this?" he asked. "Karen Edwards," the foreman replied, confident. "She said there was a critical pipe issue." Miller narrowed his eyes. "There are no underground utilities here." Silence. Then panic. The crew froze, looking at each other like they'd just been caught robbing a museum. Karen came storming out of her house, pointing wildly. "They're fixing a safety hazard. He's hiding something." But this time, nobody believed her, not even Greg. She was arrested before she could finish her sentence. And the best part, the officer informed her, right on the curb, that my structure was a legal, reinforced safety bollard completely within my property line. But the real shock wasn't the arrest. It's what we uncovered about the HOA the very next day. The morning after Karen's arrest, the neighborhood felt different. Quieter. Almost like everyone had been holding their breath for months and finally exhaled. I stepped outside expecting whispers, sideways glances, maybe tension. Instead, something I never imagined started happening. People walked toward me, not away, toward. Mrs. Langley from across the street, sweet lady always trimming roses, was the first to speak. "Sam, thank you," she said softly. "You did what none of us could." Then came the Harris couple, then the Johnsons. Then even quiet old Mr. Clarkson, who barely talks to squirrels, let alone humans. Every single one had a story, a bogus violation, a threat, a scare tactic, a fee pulled out of thin air. Karen hadn't been running an HOA, she'd been running a fiefdom, and we'd all been paying rent to her ego. That afternoon, Rachel, my attorney, confirmed it. "Sam, the city's launching an audit. And the HOA board? Suspended." Suspended, one word, but it changed everything. By evening, neighbors were helping repair the corner Karen's SUV had mangled for months. Kids played chalk games on the sidewalk again. People smiled without darting nervous glances toward the Edwards house. And Laura, she sat beside me on the porch, breathing deeper than she had in weeks. "You did it," she whispered. "You really stood up for us." But I shook my head. "No, hun, we stood up together." Still, there was one last lesson this whole mess had to teach me. Something bigger than lawns, rules, or HOA drama. When the dust finally settled, and the neighborhood found its rhythm again, I stood at the corner where everything had happened. The crash, the shouting, the sabotage, the digging. The concrete post stood there like a quiet reminder. Sometimes standing your ground isn't loud, it's steady. I looked at the lawn we'd reshaped together. The edges are clean. The grass is finally growing straight. Kids laughing nearby while someone's dog chased a leaf across the sidewalk. A normal scene, something we hadn't had in a long time. Laura slipped her hand into mine. "You know," she said softly, "this wasn't really about Karen." She was right. It was about boundaries, the physical ones marked by old metal stakes, and the invisible ones marked by self-respect. It was about community. How people who barely talk can suddenly stand shoulder to shoulder when they realize they've all been carrying the same weight. It was about courage, not the dramatic kind, but the quiet, everyday kind that says, I'm done letting people walk all over me. And maybe the biggest lesson, life will always have its Karens, its power queens, its rule benders and line steppers. But life will also give you moments, small, steady, clear moments, where you get to choose who you're going to be. So if you've ever been pushed too far or felt unheard, or dealt with someone who mistakes kindness for weakness, this story is for you. And hey, if you want more real stories like this, more wins, more lessons, more finally someone stood up, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and drop a comment about the wildest neighbor you've ever dealt with. Because trust me, there's always another story coming.